I don't know what's going on here. Like, there is something about Marine Lord and Ottoman picks in his team tournament games. We're back for the decider here. Cliffside, Anatand, and Marine Lord going up against Voldemar and Wham. And god damn, do we have a potential late game grinder here. You know, I say that, but Ottomans has been being played for that aggro potential so far in the 2v2 tournament. Rarely they come out, but when they have, they seem to have feudal presence. And I'm wondering if that's the goal here, that Anatand is just going to basically play servant and butler to Marine Lord's greed. Allow him to go for the cast lays, allow him to take over the game. Meanwhile, I love this from Voldemar. A lot of people think that Voldemar's signature civ is Chinese. I think you're wrong. I think he's wrong. It's Abbasids. It's always been Abbasids secretly. Everyone may have come to know him for his Chinese, but his Abbasids has always been the secret source, and in the current meta, it's a damn good source to whip out, you know? It's like, you whip out Chinese at the table, it's kind of like just going for the cheap, like, all-brand ketchup. Not even Heinz. Meanwhile, when you turn up with the Abbasids, it's like that peri-peri salted, medium chili sauce with a sriracha kind of tone to it that you really know is going to have a kick. I rate this civ and this player with it highly. And with the assistance of Roos, it's pretty intriguing. You've got a cool tick of the box for infantry and cavalry. And I think that's important, by the way, because the interesting thing about Ottomans is although they can feel really weird in the mid-game, should you go late game, you don't want to be playing these dedicated cavalry civs as much. For example, Roos should be doing better than French or Joan. Because French and Joan, for most of the game, are just going to play mass cav, and Ottomans eat that up. Also, the Japanese eat that up, because Mounted Samurai guys actually hard counter French Knight spam. The reason is because French Knights, their charge gets completely offset, but also there's a really weird bug right now where French Knights, they're meant to get bonus damage after they charge, but because deflective armor doesn't allow the unit to take any damage, it doesn't activate the charge buff. So that's why French Knights always lose to Mounted Samurai. So I think there's a lot more presence and hope here. I also think Voldemar and Wham have really good scalability for the late game. And they're going to need that because if they can't end it early, they are going to be up against the Ottoman threat. So looking at the landmark choices, nothing too unorthodox here. Twin Minaret Madrasa makes a lot of sense. The reason is that there are some matchups where you want to have Sultanate Trade Network. For example, we saw earlier Marine Lord and Wham played an Ottoman French draft. Playing into the trade network makes more sense there because you are eventually going to be the teching player, whereas the French player is always going to stay feudal longer. In this matchup, your job is to be the aggro player. So Madrasa is better for being feudal present than the Sultanate trade network is. Voldemar has gone for the military wing. So some feudal presence going to be coming in. And that makes a lot of sense. So their goal, their win condition here should be to try and block Marine Lord's tech. So Anatand's goal here is to play interception to protect their win condition, which is Marine Lord fast castling. For Voldemar and Wham, their target should be very clear here. And it's intriguing because when you play a 1v1, it's quite hard sometimes to find that timing to kill Japanese before they castle. But in 2v2s, you've got double the pressure loading in. Love this coming through from Marine Lord Anatand, though. When you're against one of the Canadians, there's something ironic about using deer shoves against them. So they are going to get all the food back home. Marine Lord also, on top of that, already has 17 sheep. He started with Tawara, so he's going through the berries first. This is a lot of safe food, which means the only weak point of Marine Lord's base right now is this gold. Elsewhere, Wham did get 12 sheep. He also now has the double deer stat protected with the Kremlin, which is sick. We've only got 7 sheep for Anatan, but remember, he's going to have Anatolian Hills, and he also has Madrasa, so he's fine. He'll be able to afford Mass Sipahi. And finally, Voldemar also got 18 sheep, and of course, because he's playing as the berry-loving Abbasids, there's plenty of value in those as well. Actually, I've got to say, Voldemar and Wham got an outrageous spawn. With this Kremlin placement, it protects so much. Double deer, berries behind, deer as well, additional berries and deers on the back, which they can easily wall left and right. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's kind of similar value with the berries, but Marine Lord's not going to play onto them. The deer is a little bit further spread and a little bit further exposed, I'd say, for the Northside team. And game strategy-wise, it's just not a resource they're going to be able to leverage as well as what Voldemar and Wham have. Okay, we've got Hosen nerding out for us. French Knight Charge has State Tree function on damage penetrated. And because the charge damage deflects entirely, it's not penetrated. So State Tree doesn't activate. Thanks. Let me just give you your reward for nerd. You guys like Rams? We've got Rams. We've got Jean-Claude Van Ram over here. Voldemort just trying to muscle up. This is always a little bit weird when you've got like knights to assist because you can't garrison knights inside, right? So it's just the units you start with. Interesting detail is the fact that Voldemort hasn't gone for like a second TC. So it shows you just how high of a priority killing this gold is to them. It's definitely painful for Marine Lord as well. I don't quite like the way this is being played out. Marine Lord shouldn't be the one garrisoning inside this outpost. It should be Anatand. Remember, Anatand, he can garrison inside teammates' outposts. And yes, Ram now. You have to go fast. Because look at the gold. Marine Lord's not that far off already. Sipahi. Perfect to try and take this out. Ivor's going to be coming in, but a little bit difficult. Remember, there is already arrow slits. No fortifications coming through, though. Marine Lord does have double arrow slits, though. Makes it very difficult to dive with these knights, considering that Wham doesn't have undermesh yet. In fact, no blacksmith drop, so it's not going to be on the way anytime soon. Kind of feels like they're failing to stop this, right? Cool idea, but I think, you know, realistically, this is kind of the tricky part when one of you is playing a Night Civ. It's almost like you would have preferred to just have mass infantry with a double blob. And this is also where Ottomans can feel kind of cool when they're a specialist role civ. And by specialist, I mean they only build cav. Sipahi are phenomenal when you can get away with only building them. You know, in hindsight, it kind of feels like one of the games where maybe Spearman would have made more sense for Voldemar. But because he didn't get them early, it's now too late to stop this. Marine Lord's tech up, now on the way. Yeah, this is pretty underwhelming pressure. And behind this, like, Voldemar is now just going back for the TC. But now you're 8 minutes in when you're contemplating this, right? You could have had the TC at like 6 minutes. So the difference is huge. On top of that, he didn't even get fresh food stuff, so he hasn't been making savings there. His teammate isn't 2 TC. His teammate isn't rushing castle. Anatan is happy. He's gleeful with life, right? Because, like, Sipahi scale really well as the game goes on. Well, actually, in some situations, Sipahi feels better than Knights, even. Because the thing you have to keep in mind with Knights is, like, Knights can't stab over each other. So Sipahi are more effective at that initial wallop when you're, like, 10+. Especially if you're playing into choke points, which is what was going to happen there. But love this raid. Anatan has been loving life a little bit too much. It's time to make him hate it. What a dive in. Wham! Able to hit the entire economy of the Ottomans. Several villages going to be going down as well. Now, there is no undermesh, so realistically, you can't stay here for long, but you can stay here long enough. Anatan had everything defending Marine Lord's base, and he suffers for it. Keeps the injuries to a minimum, admittedly, only losing 3 villages in the end. I'm impressed. But every little helps here. They need any little they can get. Because they need to slow down one of these players, as the other one is about to blitzkrieg forward. Yeah, that was a really good defense. And it kind of shows you how absurd villages shuffling still is. I'm not sure how people feel in general about villages shuffling. To me, it feels too good. It's kind of crazy. I feel like when you get caught out in a bad position, you should be ultimately punished. But I've lost count of the amount of situations I've just seen, for example, villagers run through a bunch of knights trying to kill them and run to safety. It's wild. No, Samurai are going to have to back up for the time being. Wham does have quite a few knights. Did Marine Lord lose 2 farms? Yes, but by placing this Kurosawa here, it means that everything is kind of in range of the TC, so it's much harder to dive you. Calming moment here. I think Voldemar is now looking for H3. He stopped producing units. Makes a lot of sense. He just wants enough to defend. Walls are going up, and this is a really handy thing about the Rus. The Rus walls are really strong. They also build 33% faster than other walls. So very difficult now because Marine Lord has gone for mass Knights. And Knights have the same torch power as a Samurai. They have the same torch power as a Spear. You're not gaining anything by building these instead when it comes to torch damage. So it takes you a very long time to get through the defenses. Unfortunately for Wham, it's not up yet. And this is a terrible fight to be taking. Mad Samurai count just way too high. Has to back away. Means the villager is going to get sniped out. That means that we have now got Marine Lord going deep into Rus territory. And yes, Rus walls build faster. So if you look here, you can see it takes 3 seconds. If you look at Voldemar's, you can see it takes 4 seconds. It's dumb. Don't ask me why. It basically is a residual effect from when they buffed Rus a long time ago, and they keep forgetting about it. Which tells you that no devs watch my videos, Pepe Hands, because I talk about it every single bloody Rus game. That's alright. Have to back away here. So good hold there by Wham. Love the fact that he's also trying to aggress onto the east side. Anatan is now having to transition into spears. A lot of confidence actually coming out from Marine Lord and Anatan as well. Like, look at the wall situation. Only the south side team is bothering to wall. It just shows you how big of a threat the Mounted Samurai are from Marine Lord. Meanwhile, when you think about this Knight threat from Wham, he has to mirror the Mounted Samurai, but he's also easily addressable with mass spears to the Ottomans. One thing that's kind of super sick and underrated here as well is he's on ranged armor right now, which is a misclick. Melee armor is insane here against even the Knights. Just mitigates, what is it, 10% of the damage? I do think that Anatan overextended though. No spearmen in the formation, right? Like, he's waiting on the production. They're now coming through the military schools. Right, additional ones now being set up as well. Active production also on the way, because as we know at this stage of the game, the passive production isn't that impressive. However, check this. A nice surround. Wham, hitting from all sides. Anatan going to lose the bulk of the army here. And that's still going to be about 10 knights to dive towards his base. Not just that, on the west side, it's also kind of a loss here. Marine Lord starting to bring those relics home. The third one about to be banged, but we've now got a push coming in from Voldemar. Camel's also a problem, reducing your damage heavily. Almost feels like one of those situations where a unit switch from Marine Lord would be really beneficial here. Like, kind of... Where do you go? Like, Mass Samurai, maybe? It's kind of weird, right? Because playing Mass Samurai on such a big map, if your opponent's going to keep scaling Camel Archers, you get kited and killed. So it's kind of like, unless Anatan can deliver something extra, you're forced to just keep building Mounted Samurai. Yumi, the problem with Yumi is, if you just scale mass Yumi, the moment the Voldemar goes age 3, you die because of composite bows. This is one of those matchups where mass Yumi just doesn't work. In fact, fun fact, guys, the Abbasid Japanese matchup is a wild one. A lot of players still feel like Abbasids just get stomped by Japanese a lot. But, especially with the Camel Archer buffs, if you start scaling Camel Archers at the right time, you can basically just ruin the Japanese. Because then no matter what they build, they suck, right? Like, Onimusha are going to suck against Camel Archers. You build into the Mounted Samurai, Camel Archers can kill them. You build into the Samurai, Camel Archers can kill them. It's kind of a tough matchup. It's definitely more impactful for the Abbasids on water-based maps. But I think even there, that might have leaned back towards Japan now with the buff to Koka Township. I mean, Anatan still has a lot of villagers, guys. So I wouldn't write him out. He's got 41. He's fine. He's taken a few bruises here, but he's definitely not dead. He does need a tech sooner rather than later, though. We already have a tech now coming on the other side, so it looks like Voldemar is going to be the first to tech up. Eco Wing now on the way. Marine Lord now with a hell of a lot of Mounted Samurai. Has got the Uma Bannerman as well. The only problem is the mass spears, right? I say only problem. There's a huge problem here. Because there's also Phalanx spears with boot camp. They don't die quickly. These walls are also just so painful to deal with. We mentioned the fact that they build fast. We always have to remember it's fortified palisades, so double the health of standard. Means every time you try to break through, realistically, Voldemar should be able to react. We see him shuffling across now, so Marine Lord is going to have to back away again. And you could now run all the way west side, but like, you know, it takes so much time and it feels like you're kind of wasting your opening here. You just need an in and you need it fast. It was at least about to break, but just this many spears. Feels like the type of place you don't want to try to dent into. Anatan has at least started to amass archers, but the count is simply too shy, too small. High Trade House now on the way. Get your big boy number in here, because it looks like Wham has found a juicy spot between the 3 shrubs. Even clipping slightly onto 4 and 5. This is the thing about the Ottoman pick, right? And I think we've seen both ends of the spectrum now. Voldemar has actually experienced both ends of the spectrum. We've seen the versions where Ottomans are really dangerous. They ruin your game by aggroing. And we've seen these games where they play more of a defensive role. I think that's the tricky part here. And it's kind of wild, actually, because Anatan building Mass Sipahi to defend his ally should have in some ways kind of sucked. And the reason is this. Like, whenever you build Horsemen, the idea is mobility. Do things, don't be forced to defend things. But what happened is, even though he built Sipahi, he was forced to defend just in the wrong location. It's a very weird way that feudal age played out, not how you would have expected. But I think it does show the merit of like Ottomans trying to be the aggro civ instead of the defensive civ. But that goes back to this Voldemar pick, right? Like picking Abbasids, I think, ruins the ability to outpost rush because it takes so long to get into position, because you're more delayed than, say, a Mongol player in setting up the outpost. And also, Abbasids don't really care about losing their gold as much. So overall, it feels like you were always going to have to defend here, and Sipahi was probably the only option Anno had. All right, you guys, fingers over raid. Check the numbers. 190. And it's going to get better. It's getting close to that. Well, he's past that tier 3, actually. Yeah, so this is as good as it gets. 190 gold. Not bad. Basically 2 relics and a little bit for free. Speaking of relics, we've got what? 3 relics grabbed? I don't know if a 4th is feasible here. Anderson finally ready for his own tech up. So Mehmed Imperial Armory is now on the way. Pretty standard. 4 blacksmiths as well, because he needs to make sure he's got that production speed buff. Anyone else sensing like a late game approaching? I'm feeling a late game is on the way. It's just too many walls, man. We really need to talk about walls, okay? Like, can we just all agree that walling is way too easy? Because based on what I'm seeing on the map, walling feels too easy. Got a wall here, wall here, wall. Okay, these ones haven't been added in yet, but it's pretty much what kept them alive against this mounted samurai timing. If it wasn't for that, they'd be dead. Because the raids would have hit the backside where they're all gathering right now. Instead, infantry mass kind of able to make it work. I guess my only issue, like, it's an awkward balancing issue, right? I think in 1v1s, walls are way too oppressive. In team games, they almost feel necessary because of how OP Cav would be. It's a really weird feeling. I'm not sure what the absolute solution is because of that. If it was just 1v1s, I'd say nerf walls hard. But because of team games, it's almost like balance them becomes a giant puzzle to solve for. Mount Samurai now riding in. Whoa, Anatan. Wait, he did. Yeah, he pulled the Janissary points there. That's an expensive Vizier point investment. Does allow him to massacre the Knights, though. That's now only 5 remaining for Wham. The majority have been removed. In the meantime, Mount Samurai are going to get blocked in the rotation. Voldemar's army looks massive here. I think he's been scrimming a little bit too much with Louis MT. This is pretty much a Louis strategy. Mounted Samurai only. Samurai. Not all of them are going to get out. And the quick little... Oh, that was so close! Wham! Not quite able to get across there in time. That would have been perfect, though. If they got that surround, that would have been GG. Marine Law would not be able to replace 25 mounted Samurai that quickly. Instead, he will be able to burn his way out. A few more going to be lost here. Wall on the other side is going to shift him west side. Easily able to make that escape. We have got 2 TC at home from Marine Lord. Mass farms are coming in. Guys, this is going into Imperial. I think there's no doubting it now. The question is who's going to get there first. Marine Lord probably is most likely. Voldemar also pretty highly up there. This man is up to things, though. I've seen this before. I think he's looking for a keep drop to end the game. Those are the worst looking farms you ever seen. No, Faye. This is equally as bad as Louis'. Louis does this as well. I've seen this a lot. He just doesn't prioritize around the TC to get the full farm buff. And neither does Marine Lord, actually. Spears. I'm going to start moving in, and I think we are going to have a villager pool soon. It feels undeniable. When Voldemar is sitting on 2,000 stone, I can only think one thing is on the way. But now it's just going to be the army, but soon it might be some villagers here to assist. Marine Lord ready to offer his assistance, but first he needs those spearmen cleared. Tricky situation, actually. There's just so many spears to deal with, and with the boot camp, they're very tanky. Does hit the west side where they're weaker. Voldemar now diving even deeper to ensure that Anatan can not contribute much here. In fact, the archers are now coming. Anatan was holding them in the reserve. Might be an opportunity to punish here. Voldemar having to back away. Does at least have the composite bows if he needs to fight. But right now, Wham isn't here. He needs more time to arrive. Might not have it. Fight commences. Spear on spear. Mad Samurai are stuck at the choke point. Archers are trading out. Spear count for Voldemar might not be high enough, though. It looked like it was going to be a good fight, but they're getting whittled down far too fast here. Mounted Samurai able to mop it up, and Voldemar about to lose the entire army in the retreat. Yeah, there's no getting away from this, right? The crossbows are slowing him down. He tries to kill the archers, but it's too little too late. Marine Lord just sticking to him like flies to crap. Expensive losses for sure, right? Marine Lord was about close to 50. He loses half his Mount Samurai count. But Voldemar has lost the entire bulk. And in some ways, this was probably the best way that Marine Lord could have traded, right? Like, he went into Spear Archers. The alternative was diving into Mass Crossbows. This is the point where I feel like if you're in a 1v1 as a Japanese player, you're probably transitioning. But because it's a team game, Marine Lord just stays the course. More and more Mount Samurai on the way. Makes sense, right? Like, Wham does counter you, but also Wham has to be in position to counter you. Getting in position is the big challenge for him here. Well, these farms more acceptable. Voldemar 47 deep. Remember, he went ecoing, so agriculture... Come on. Don't forget it. Agriculture tech is a jackpot here. When you've got that many farms, it's worth it for 275 resources. Even Golden Age free now, so production rates are going to allow him to just spam crap tier units ad infinitum. Yeah, I'm still wondering what Voldemar's plan is with all this stone. Right, like at some point, you'd think he would try for a keep drop or two. And there's your answer. It's so dumb and ugly. Oh my god. I think that this game is just going to be a pristine example of why walls are ridiculous. It's just so many walls. Cliffside has a lot that I praise, but when you get a game like this, it can show its negative elements. Looks like we've got Imp on the way, guys. I'm impressed. We wondered who would be first to go there. Did anyone have the guy with 58 economy at 25 minutes banked as the first into Imperial? We probably should have, right? It's Ottomans. But it's happening. The toxic point in the game is arriving. Ay, ay, ay. So now you have to crap or get off the pot, right? You're either sending it or you're backing off and going double imp. I think in this matchup, the weakest imp civ should be Marine Lords, right? Theoretically, yeah. I mean, Abbasid is kind of obviously better in Imperial. Rus are very strong due to Streltsy. They also have the Banded Arms to snipe out the Great Bombards. So in theory, you know, Voldemar, Wamdemar, that they should be better in Imperial when they're fully there. They have to get there first, though. Instead, they're going to be diving in. Wham leads the way. Marine Lord not really in a great position to defend this either. He's switching Indoor Horseman now, but Mass Cav in this situation against 55 Spearmen. They need great bombards ASAP. And we're not seeing any on the way yet from Anatan. Poke in the back is coming. Dive's moving in. No Shogunate castles, no big fat rocket launcher to assist here. Mango's now in range. Might be able to get some good shots off. Tracking is there. Archers do splinter off a little, though. And elite status is it now in. Mount Samurai charging from the east side. Horsemen in the mix as well. And you see Anatan is circling from the west side, just trying to get around the back, but taking a long time to arrive here. Means that Marine Lord has to back away. This is kind of weird, though. Like, in a weird way, Marine Lord is going to probably lose the entire army, but it should buy enough time for the elite archers to gradually win this out. Really comes down to the siege, and the backstab is in. Mana Samurai looking to reach in, but the body blocks at the last second to protect. But they won't be able to protect long. It means they're now frontlining. Wham and Voldemar are not going to be able to break them here. They're going to get wiped. Culture Wing is at least on the way, so Voldemar is going to be reaching up into the Imperial Age. They do have a substantial eco lead right now, but Anatan is now online. Ottoman Imperial is no joke. Neither of those sweet, sweet savings over at Protein works when you use code KillerPigeon. Yeah, I feel like they're feeding a different kind of beast here. I mean, you can feed yourself with that discount code, but I think there's a bigger problem coming. Right, Marine Lord, this switch up was probably well advised. I don't think gold felt reliably accessible for long. Mass Horseman's kind of intriguing, plus Mass Archer. You wouldn't expect this. Normally, you'd expect Anatan to be the one building Mass Sipahi. I'm wondering if this is a bait and switch, because Marine Lord realistically down the line could find a lot of value out of Ona Bagisha. I actually think if they switch Ona Bagisha, they wipe the floor with the Southside team. He's pretty much frontlining with archers now, by the way. Finally, we have our first Great Bombard queued up. If there's no walls they can't hide behind. There we go. That's, like, you know what? Anatan is the hero of this game, guys. He's the one building the siege to get rid of all these walls. I think Marine Lord might go in next. Think about it this way, right? Like, you're spending a lot on horsemen, but he has all these farms, right? Gold is maybe a little bit more limited, but you don't spend it now that you switch into horsemen. It's a more cost-efficient unit to bulk, so you can have surplus to try and go into imp. Where did all that stone go? Was it just into stone walls? Good guy Voldemar. You can tell he's a fantastic teammate to have. I love the way that he moved over and walled Wham's side of the map as well. Right there. Look, that's technically on Wham's side, I think. Actually, Voldemar put more effort into walling Anatan's corner of the map than he did into walling Wham's. Incendiary arrows now in for the archers. These golems aren't upgraded, guys. They actually aren't that scary yet. We'll have to back up. Crossbow's also not scary yet. I get why they're kind of rushing. They do have the military lead, but love the way that Anatan's just cutting them out and taking advantage of it. Frontline is starting to clear. The horsemen should be able to kind of breach through. That Great Bombard has to come out soon, surely. Yeah, 20 seconds away. And then it's 10-pin bowling Whamdamar. I just can't getting low, though. Anatan really just lacking the production right now, it seems. His eco is still at 67. Someone get this guy a bank loan. Good God. Golden Hat upgrades are now in, so elite crossbows on the field for Voldemar. However, they don't have much of a front line against mass horsemen here. Marine Lord from age 3, still looking to be the difference maker. Ona Bagisha's switch up is also on the way. Meanwhile, Knight's going to dive in, but the archers, they hit hard enough. They can bite back. Great Bombard is now here. Yeah, they're not going to break through with this. At this stage, it feels like they need Wham to go age 4. Voldemort is trickling troops, right? But defender's advantage is a thing. And I think the other worrisome part is as you start moving in towards these cliff areas, you choke a lot, right? And I don't mean you throw the game. I mean your units bundle together. And then you throw the game. Because it's great bombards. Rus is not that much better. What, in Imp? They most definitely are. Band at Arms, Streltsy, Horsemen, which with the boys' Fortitude have more health than French Horsemen, by the way. They are incredible. Great Bombard really needs to strike back, though. 10-pin bowling time? Goes after the Knights. Wait, Wham is trying to attack it, so this is working out. And now we're getting the strikes. This is going to start to fall apart. This is the worst nightmare of every player playing against Ottomans. You are now in Doomsday territory. So really what you need from Wham, I don't think it's Knights. I think it has to be Horsemen. It's tough, though, because if you build Horsemen, you're just building worse Horsemen. Remember, Marine Lord has got the Bannerman aura, plus an extra melee tech over you. So if you are mirroring Horseman mass, Japanese Horsemen will mostly win. It'll be tight because of Boys Fortitude with the extra 25 health. But long term, it will be a losing fight. Not to mention the farm efficiency. Like, usually it's better for the Japanese. We don't talk about this game, though. Voldemort and Wham have bulked up an army again. It's deceptive, though. 20 of that is kind of fake. It's the militia. Don't forget Elite Horse Archers. I think we'd all like to forget about Elite Horse Archers, thank you. Ono Big Ish is kind of cool, right? But like Marine Lord, it doesn't work when you're just trickling them against Ghoulims. It's a massacre. Like actually against like Ghoulims is terrible if you're forced to take a direct fight. Feels like this is the type of game where Mounted Samurai would have made sense because you had archers deal with the crossbows. Or just stick horsemen. Great Bombard is being approached here. Militia trying to dive in, but not effective at this stage. Not enough health left on the bar. And second Great Bombard is now arriving. This is important. If they cannot start to cull the herd, the siege is going to begin to win this game fast. God, we're going to hit the speed up. This is going to be a meat grinder. Guys, this is not what you call a quick victory approaching. This is going to be a slog. And Marine Lord is ready to join the Age 4 party. Tanagashima Gunsmith down the way. This could be Mass Hand Cannoneers. Mass Hand Cannoneers is kind of vile here. Like, Mass Hand Cannoneer, Mass Streltsy. Sorry, Mass Hand Cannoneer, Mass Streltsy. My brain is farted. Janissary is really strong. Because, like, right now, Voldemort's mistake is he's going crossbows. It's kind of weird, actually, that he stuck crossbows instead of going back archers. Archers are just kind of more efficient at this stage. You don't really have a reason to be in the crossbows. Kind of surprised Abra isn't trading. I'm not. How would they trade with all these walls in the way? High armory now coming through, so every player going to be an Imperial. And this is much needed now. The Great Bombard threat has not been contained. Colrun's is not solving the problem. You're going to have to rely on Band at Arms and hope that's good enough. Yes! Freedom to the map! Delete all the walls. Great Bombard's now starting to knock them down. Push coming in again. Archers to start a step away. Onobagisha are going to reinforce. Now, keep in mind, we've reached the stage where Odin tactics can be coming in, and this is a big deal breaker. That's when the Onobagisha start to shred almost everything. Ghoulims are going to do well, though. Credit to him, the camel support is strong here. These Ghoulims as a frontline entity have 8 melee armor, 10 ranged armor. Archers is not going to work. Janissaries isn't going to feel that good. Basically, you need to play bowling with these guys now. Great Bombards is your win condition in these fights. It will snipe out the siege. Oh my god. He wasted so much effort to kill one Great Bombard. This has to be so tilting, man. Siege Repair is wild. And, well, we do have the Horseman switch, but I think Marine Lord read this perfectly. Like, switching into Onobagisha answers the Roost play. It doesn't answer the Ghoulam spam, right? Just the armor. But it's perfect for what Roost are going to try to pump out. Is it me, or does it feel like as the minutes go on, this game is kind of slipping from Voldemort and Wham? I mean, they have a punchback now, right, with the Streltsy. I think the problem is they just don't have anti-siege. Like, they truly do not have a real answer against Great Bombards. Or at least they're not fielding an answer right now. The recovery arc comes beyond this threshold. Like, these choke points right now are great for Great Bombards. Right? Right now, it's like all the pins are there in the bowling alley. And you just have to hit them. But when you get out here, it's like that tricky 9 and... Like, is it 9 and... I want to say 12 placement? Where you've got the pin on the east side and the pin on the west side. Or pin on the right side and the pin on the left side. And you've only got one shot left. That's when the Great Bombards feel a bit tricky because the spread is wider, you can get concaved. But in these choke points, dude, you're just farming. Look at the bodies! 7-10 split. Thank you, Alex. There we go. I thought it was the high numbers, but I wasn't sure. You can tell I bowl not much. So at some point, our south side protagonists are going to build siege, right? We've finally got it on the way. Voldemar is adding in the Culverins, 2 online, third one coming. If he can get up to about 5 Culverins, he can address this directly. And the cool thing is, like, yes, there's Onabagisha, but Onabagisha, while being fast, are not as tanky as horsemen. So their ability to just dive in and take out siege maybe isn't as, like, obnoxious, as a lot of them are going to die running by, especially if Voldemar keeps supporting with Golems. Onabagisha, a bit ambitious there with the torch attempt. And, by the way, there is no Oda Tactics. I'm pretty sure, I know my numbers well. It feels like we have not got Oda Tactics on, but maybe I'm wrong. Can I find a uni? There is way too many buildings here. Oh, he has got it. My apologies. Oh, so he's missing the melee 4 then. There we go. It's in now. And we should get an abandonment soon. So that'll put him up to about 16 damage per strike. And that's when the Camel support is still effective, but starts to get a little bit offset. Right now, they're just shredding through the Horsemen. Streltsy mass is looking good, but the Great Bombards, they're winding up for the target in here. Gulam, in the meantime, I'll wrap around the back. One of the Great Bombards is going to be taken down. The Culverins starting to find their hit here. Military shrinking up fast. Anno Lord in a bit of trouble here. Wham. I think the best thing he could do right now is just take these Horsemen, start peeling past and going into the economy. Let the Streltsy mop this up, because right now, the Gunner boys are larger than life. 52 Streltsy in the field for Wham. And this is powerful. The Great Bombards were threatening before, but now the Horsemen reaching in. Another one is going to be struck down. There's only one of these siege weapons remaining for Anatan. Onabagisha are going to look to search for it again. This will at least give a temporary reset. We have got trade now underway. We can actually see that it's going to be Anatan and Marine Lord working together on this, as both of them are trading with each other. And that's kind of cool, right? Because if they traded neutrally with the map, they would have got more, but they would have ran through where the fight is. This is so subtle, I'm not even sure Voldemar and Wham suspect it. And yeah, Voldemar might be bankrolling the economy, but it kind of makes sense, right? Like, Abbasid's strength lies in their economy. Rus's strength lies in their military in the late game. Right? Streltsy are some of the best gunpowder units in the game. The Horsemen are some of the best Horsemen in the game by far. Their siege is some of the best siege by far. Weirdly enough, that's actually being supplied by Voldemar still, though. I think that comes down to the population efficiency of Culverins, though, right? All right, get your predictions in. How long is this game going to be? Because it's going the distance. And yes, to answer Oscar on YouTube, the Great Bombards have splash damage. They're absurd. Great Bombards are still not balanced. I feel for Ottoman's early game, they need something more, but their late game needs enough. Still. Also, didn't the devs say they've got like a siege rework in mind? Because now I'm really curious. If you're going for a siege rework, how are you fixing this? right? Let's say that siege rework is to fix Springalds, which I think everyone can agree at this point, Springalds are not a good addition to the game. Their current functionality is toxic. But the moment you deal with like Springalds and Culverins, how are you solving this? Right? Like this just becomes king again. Arguably it already is still king. Push coming in, backstab also, but wow. Came to the wrong neighborhood there. The siege wasn't moved up yet, so no opportunity. It's awkward, right? Like if these great bombards ever reach this Streltsy mass, Wham is royally screwed. But it never feels safe because even though they're playing these choke points, you're now seeing Wham play a bit wider with the Horsemen, which makes Anatan think twice about moving up. What's toxic about Springles? How else do you beat mass Mangoes? That's the problem, though. Springles are toxic because they're forced gameplay interaction because Mangoes can only really be countered by them. If you think about Siege Warfare, the reason why Siege Warfare is really boring and toxic in AoE 4 is it basically just eventually becomes a Springald race. That's it, right? That's not very imaginative if you think about it. Right? Like right now we have a great Bombard race versus an anti-siege race. That's not very interesting. It's a one-dimensional counter. Like, Horsemen don't really work that well to counter Mangoes. They've kind of got a little bit better with the extra melee range, but not enough. However, check this. The search for Onabigisha just mopping this up. The crossbows! Not able to front line. Mistakes made there. Voldemar didn't have the Ghoulims in position. That's all his backline gone. And a breakthrough here. Chase in. Bombard's Culverins in trouble. Remember, Onabigisha's made quick work of this. Bombard's going down. Culverin's also in trouble. The reaction's not feeling quick enough here. And the loss is starting to stack up. The Streltsy pretty much getting ignored in that engagement as they were out of position for Wham. And now with the Great Bombards able to move up, Wham is now in trouble. He's getting pounded on that backline. And we start to see the problem here, right? Like Wham, he has to come in with that backstab. It pretty much puts him on the wrong side of the fight. Voldemar never able to then assist with the anti-siege. Means the Great Bombards get to feast. Not going to be enough to break them through, but definitely enough to break the piggy bank, right? Streltsy is still alive, but a lot of them at the half HP mark or lower. Gold amount is not looking great in this game. Look at the income on these two players. Look at the income on this side. Marine Lord and Anatan set up their trade far ahead of Voldemar and Wham. They're now only doing this transition. It hurts them when you consider the compositions. You've got Onabigisha, Janissary on one side, very gold heavy. On the other, you're talking about Ghoulims, crossbows, Culverins, Streltsy. These are all gold intense units. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really annoyed that we still don't have the kill count on units. That sucks to me that that's still not a detail. It feels like an easy add for the AoE4 engine, right? Because I think, I talked to someone about this before, there is definitely some sort of counter registering, which is why it was so easy to make things like the get free kills and the unit triples mod that we have. Something that I was really envious of, right? Because like other RTSs have had it, it's really cool to see the story. Like, oh my god, this one knight has killed 15 units. Wow! Concave. Whoa, overextension by Anatan. Need to get back here. Like, concave is where you're being surrounded in a crescent shape. It just gives more firepower to your opponent. Great Bombard's just fully backing up. In fact, looks like Anatan is just going to throw the army away. And it makes sense, right? It's just archers. So he's losing the archers to get more Janissaries. And check the reaction from Voldemar. This is perfect, guys. Wait. This is the counter. Oh my god. So for those that don't know, Camel Archer's got a secret buff. Notice that extra line there underneath melee infantry. They now get bonus against gunpowder. So if you can get this comp online, it's a 1-pop unit with 200 HP. He hasn't even got biology yet. Camel Archers is actually the perfect counter to everything that Marine Lord and Anatan is doing, bar the Great Bombards. It counters the Spears, it counters the Onabigisha, and it counters the Janissary. kind of wild. That's a sick read by Voldemar. You know, if they can get that count up to, say, 30, 40, they're back in this. The challenge really is the Great Bombards. The count is now up to 4. If it ever reaches, like, 8, that's when you reach the Doomsday stack. Let's push him with the Janissaries here. Just trying to punish the Streltsy overextending. Good backup by Wham. And tell me you're poor without saying you're poor. Wham gets sent 3,000 food here. They need the Horsemen, right? Like, if you're building the Camel Archers, you need someone to front line for you, ideally. Check this. Camel Archers now moving in. It's so easy, because here's the other thing, guys. Remember, you also take 50% more range damage. So just contemplate this for a second. You're taking 37 damage, minus 3, 34 damage. Add 15% onto that. You get melted here. Your Janissaries only have, like, what is it? I think it's 105 HP. So one shot should be doing, like, what? A third of your HP? If not more. Well, definitely more, right? So we said 50% more. So, okay, we can do the hard maths here. So 34 damage. It's going to be 51 damage per hit on a Janissary. That's wild. Oh my god. The only issue is you need time for this comp, remember. It's expensive, and they do not produce quickly, even with all these reproduction rate increases for the Abbasids. It's still 22 seconds, as opposed to, say, 9 for an Archer. And Anatan is really pushing this. His army's kind of overextended, exhausted, but the Great Bombards, they're unpacking! Streltsy! They're A-clicking in! This is the big mistake! Oh my god! And just like that, Wham loses half of the gunners. I think they misread this fight. I mean, sure, in theory, Anatan's overextending, is losing the army, but where is your melee units now to clean these up? You've got some Culverins, yes, but you've got mass ranged. It's not a good way of chasing down Great Bombards. Damn heavy hit there. One that's going to be pricey. I mean, at least trade is starting to really come in now. Wham! How many is he up to? 17 traders. I think we've got about the same actually coming in from Voldemar. So at least they've got some late game gold trickle. But still nowhere near what Marine or Nantan have. They are now up to 92 traders. Good God. Janissaries still counter Camel Archers with meta somehow. Oh, what is the attack speed buff? True, but like the logic here is you're supporting with a front line, right? So these are like, Camel Archers are more of your premium backline sniper. They don't have great range, but they have great damage output. It's also interesting. It doesn't counter Azutsu, right? Because Azutsu are heavy, not light gunpowder units. Azutsu is an interesting choice, though. I mean, I think it's all just about getting rid of the Streltsy, right? Because, like, the Streltsy is the thing that I think keeps pausing them, stopping them when they push in. Janissary, look at this. A sweep round the side. Just a few Sipahi frontlining this. Means the Camel Archers are wasting all those shots in the wrong place. What a cheeky switch. Anatan, the Sipahi transition at the perfect time here. Janissary's playing through. And Voldemar beginning to crumble. Onabagisha moving in, Azutsu pushing back against this. The Great Bombards have shifted over to the east side now, so the Streltsy should at least be able to hold on the choke points, but it's kind of come at a price. And that price seems to be Voldemar. Military account, just not what it once was. Great Bombards are at least going to be kept at bay a little bit longer by the Culverins. But you're starting to feel like this is slipping away. You're starting to feel like the late game prowess of the Ottomans cannot be denied any longer. Only 3 Great Bombards in total. But now the Sipahi added in, this is the thing that's been missing. You know, a lot of people talk about Great Bombards, the OP thing. I think they sleep on this. Sipahi are insane. No biology tech, yet already at 220 HP. They also have very good base damage. They also have this phenomenal ability to turn a winning fight into an even bigger win with Fortitude. And that's, I think, what matters most, right? Is like when you can see you're winning, you can just wallop through. What's crazy, though, is Anatan isn't even bothering with that. He's going Mass Knights. What? I mean, in theory, even more tanky than Sipahi, right? But you're doing this against mass crossbows. I think the issue for Anatan is his income's just too high, right? Yeah, 2,500 gold a minute. So it's either mass great bombards or mass knights. This at least gives him mobility, right? Which would make sense of their flank attacking. It seems that's what they're now trying to do. They're not putting too much effort behind it. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by the knight choice. Like, this versus 4 more great bombards, right? I guess the thought process, though, is like the last 2 times, I think they've had Voldemar and Wham on the ropes, but the issue has been movement. They haven't been able to move quick enough to start killing off the backline and punishing them. So by doing this, you have that surge point, right? The moment you see weakness, you can charge through. Meat grinder begins. Streltsy line has formed. Great bombards. Dealing with the front line fast here. And it looks like they're breaking. Great bombard shots come in. The Streltsy are not moving away. Forced to back off now. That means the static deployment is going to deactivate. And it means the Janissary now have the DPS advantage. Surely this has to be it. This has been a never-ending meat grinder. But I feel like we're reaching the tail end finally. Streltsy count is holding for the moment. But frontline for Voldemar, it feels a bit crippled, right? Like the Hold on. I didn't notice this. Wham has switched. We actually do have Springolds, finally. Now, guys, this is actually a big deal. With the Banded Arms, you are a more effective sniper against the Great Bombards than Culverins. You also move quicker than Culverins. Like, I would argue you want Springolds over Culverins here any day of the week. So pause this thought about game being over. There is a threat coming, though. We've been waiting for this crumble through. Marine Lord and Anatan are breaking through the walls, and this is big. This one raid, not substantial in itself. The impact of this, though. So far, this has been kind of this meat grinder in the center, both armies fully there. This small group of horsemen can now strip the economy, but also force a reactionary army to come to the east. Oh my god, they're doing so much work. 17 damage per strike. Traders of the Abbasids are at least more tanky than the public libraries, but not tanky enough. Elite horsemen are now at least reacting to this, but it's stunting their ability to reboom Streltsy, right? And that's important in this game. Meanwhile, Marine Lord is just basically looking to buy up a bank. 5,000 gold in this. You know what's interesting to me is, like, if Marine Lord had sent a bunch of knights over here instead of horsemen, I think he'd still be doing damage instead of being cleaned up. Oh, will you look at that? Perfect time for the Mount Samurai. The reason why this is just as efficient is he has got the Damaru armor, so the extra 10% movement speed makes you almost as quick as knights, as horsemen rather. Only you attack for twice the damage. Oh my god. And now the flank raid. Dude, this is wild. We're 55 minutes into the game, and it's now becoming a mass knight strat. On both ends of the map. It is wild to me that, yes, they do not have biology still this entire time. Neither of them. Which I do think would have allowed them to break the central fights, by the way. But now, they've just hit the economy. I mean, Wham has nothing in reserve, guys. He's not going to get any more gold. All he'll have is his passive trickle, things like the High Trade House, right? Which means if he ever loses the Streltsy mass, he's dead. He might be about to. Great Bombards unpack! Shots coming in. Spirals are now trading out against it, but you see the Mount Samurai come around the back here, forcing the retreat. And it means the Streltsy are now essentially front-lining for you. Second wave coming in with the Samurai. Marine Lord and Anatan are quite low on military right now, but what matters is the brute force factor. One side can afford the losses. The other cannot. Wham and Voldemar, if this Streltsy mass dies, curtain's closed. Trade count is down to what? 31 to 98. I think Voldemar and Wham need to push right now. This is probably the single best opportunity they'll get to end the game. They have a double military lead right now. They must be sensing it as well. They just saw how many units got sent into the meat grinder. Great Bombards aren't able to hold in these choke points either due to the siege. If they wait too long, the mass-mounted samurai will eviscerate. You can see how high the count is already getting. He's up to 54 of these bad boys. With Bannerman buff, they hit for 38, and we fixed it. Biology tech is now in. Funnily enough, Anatan still doesn't have it. I can't believe they're both just doing mass cav. This feels like a stress test to see how good Streltsy are. I mean, I kind of like what Voldemar and Wham have done. They've accepted their economy is hard to now replace. It's probably never getting replaced. They're losing more still. So they just need to put every single ounce of what they have left into military. I would really like to see Voldemar passing some over to Wham, though, in terms of food. Like, look at this. 12k in reserve. Jesus. Just Ottoman things, guys. Don't mind me. This truly is the Ottoman experience, isn't it? Mad Samurai now going in. Start step away. Streltsy not able to stand around for that static deployment, and the Mad Samurai have reached their target. Janissary follow-up wave coming in. It just feels like so much is being absorbed by these bad boys. All of a sudden, the military lead has switched. Not a minute ago, it was a 70 military lead for Voldemar and Wham. Now they're falling behind. They cull the first wave of cavalry, but they won't be able to deal with the second. The follow-up hand cannons are good enough, and Wham has been reduced to rubble and ruin. 7 Streltsy left. No hopes of coming back from this. Ottomans will remain the kings of the late game. But I've got to give it to him. Marine Lords, Mounted Samurais, definitely showing you and giving you a taste of how good the Japanese can be as well.